Hi there, I'm Mike, and what I have for you today is G.I. Joe Classified Series Snake Eyes. For those of you not in the know, this line was announced back in February officially. It was rumored a long time before that, but we got the official pictures, confirmation, and this bad boy right here went up for pre-order in February. Of my childhood, G.I. Joe's probably one of the earlier ones. Masters of the Universe and G.I. Joe and Transformers all happened around the same time, the early 80s. And I was born in 82, and I believe the first figures for G.I. Joe came out in 82, but the line lasted well into the 90s. The cartoon started in 83 and was in syndication by the time I was watching it. In fact, the one thing I remember distinctly as a kid was I had on VHS the Revenge of Cobra 5-part miniseries that Hasbro recently put up on their YouTube page. So if you want to go watch that, that's classic Joe right there. Anyways, I guess my point was that G.I. Joe was just as much a part of my childhood as Transformers are back here, Star Wars, Masters of the Universe, Ninja Turtles, and it's one of the few that had that holdout for that 6-inch version. I have long ago left the 3 3/4 inch scale of collecting, and I've moved on to 6-inch. So basically, if it didn't exist on a 6-inch scale, I wasn't gonna buy it. So it's nice to finally have G.I. Joe in a scale that I want to add to my collection. Now in the line so far, we've got this Snake Eyes, but they've also announced Duke, Scarlet, Roadblock, and Destro. Destro being the most recent addition. So I'm using this as sort of a preview for what the rest of the line is going to look like. Now it's not 100%. Obviously this is not what we're gonna get on the shelves. This is special. But I'm gonna go through this and then use this as like a basis for a judgment over kind of what the rest of the line is going to look like. So let's start with what I have in hand then. This is Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Classified Series. What even is this? First, we have this box, this package. This is nuts. This thing is like $200 worth of packaging for a $40 figure. You get the slip cover. It's got the logo and stuff on there. The slip cover slides right off. Underneath that, we have this really nice embossed, very thick, heavy-duty cardboard box. It's got a wolf and a dragon. On the top up here, it has Snake Eyes written in kanji. The box opens up right here like this. Inside, we have a printed reproduction of the box artwork with a little bit of extra flair. It has the Arashikage symbol on the top, which is Snake Eyes Ninja Clan. Also, Storm Shadow's Ninja Clan, where Arashikage actually just means Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow is Storm Shadow's last name. It would be like if I joined the Joes and just called myself Case, which actually I guess isn't a terrible G.I. Joe name. We have the wolf, we have like this demon thing, we have Snake Eyes sword, we have Storm Shadow's sword, kind of playing off that, yeah, they're two rival characters from the same ninja clan. Now, this relationship has changed a lot over the years, and I'll get into that in a bit. But just looking at the paper here, this is a high quality print. It's thick linen paper. I'm definitely going to get this framed. Inside that box, we have another box, and then an arsenal of ninja weapons, enough to make the Ninja Turtles jealous. First, we have this nice little display stand. On the back, it has a kind of a mural of Japanese artwork where like there's two dudes or demons or whatever fighting. On the other side are some hooks and pegs for the various arsenal of ninja weaponry. First, we have a katana sword of sorts. Next, we have two kamas or scythe type weapons. We have two sais, the likes of which would make Raphael jealous. We have two throwing hand axes. And then we have this weird double-sided spear thing. Each of these fits into a spot on the rack, but not too well. They tend to fall off, and by that I mean I tend to knock them off with my big chubby fingers when I'm trying to get them onto the stand. Each of the weapons is molded in a dark black plastic with not a lick of paint on it, and that is a theme we'll get into throughout the figure. But the weapons themselves are fine. They're absolutely fine. They look nice on the stand, but they also look nice in the case, and I'm probably never ever going to take them out of here other than for the purposes of this review. On top of that, we get the box that the figure comes in with all the accessories that come with the figure. Now, you might say, but all those accessories? Sure, I assume that these are the accessories that would be in the box had you just bought it off the shelf instead of from Hasbro's store. Now, the boxes that are going to be in the store aren't really anything like this. They're assuming the same shape and size, but the boxes we're going to get in store are blue instead of this nice kind of dark, shiny. This is almost like a Star Wars carbonized box, the reflective material they've used, the kind of finish they've used. I'm actually really sad they did not go with this for the normal line, that they went with that blue. The blue's fine, but this is so much better. On the front of the box, we have sort of a star-shaped pattern here. At least I'm assuming it's supposed to be star-shaped. We have the logo on the bottom, G.I. Joe Classified Series with Snake Eyes and a little picture, Black Series style, of the Snake Eyes portrait there. On the side, we have Snake Eyes written in Japanese or kanji. Then we have the 00, which is the number for the figure, I suppose. I don't know if the rest of the figures are going to be numbered, but if they are, I'm assuming they're starting with 01, whereas Snake Eyes is 00. On the top, we get another 00 with the Arashikage clan symbol as well. On this side, we get a really cool picture with Snake Eyes' hand, and his Wolf Timber, a subject we'll get into as well. On the back, though, let's get a look at this. Check this gorgeous picture out. This thing is absolutely amazing. So on the back of this box, we have Snake Eyes, Scarlet, and Duke, and also Destro. So those are the figures that we've had announced in the line so far. If you know your Joe lore, there's a couple other figures on here that you might think that would be coming out soon. I really hope so. We have Gung Ho kind of hanging out right here. The Baroness, Cobra Commander, obviously. And there's a couple different like ninjas and alley vipers. There's also a couple of really classic G.I. Joe vehicles on here, like Trouble Bubbles, Sky Strikers, the Havoc, which I just noticed down here. The Havoc was one of my favorite toys as a kid. So I really hope we get a lot of the stuff in the line. I'm not really expecting vehicles, but I wouldn't complain if we got a Trouble Bubble. So I guess my point is I really love this box, and I'm a little disappointed that the boxes we're getting in the line don't look like this. They look fine, but this looks better. So that's it for the boring packaging. What do we get in the package? And that's this. That's this figure right here. This is Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes is one of my favorite Joes in the entire line. When I was a kid, Snake Eyes was the cool Joe that everyone fought over to be. Why? Well, let's take a look at Snake Eyes and who he is. Now, unlike Black Series figures, there's no bio to read off here, which is weird because G.I. Joe is known for having classified files or write-ups on the back of the cards that gave a little indication of who they were, what they were good at, what their backstory was, things like that. So it's kind of weird that we haven't gotten that so far in the line. Now, growing up, I didn't really read comics or anything. I was mostly a cartoon guy. And like I said, I had the Revenge of Cobra tape, the 5 episodes for that I watched religiously. So most of my G.I. Joe exposure was through those 5 episodes, in which Snake Eyes is featured in those episodes. But Snake Eyes is pretty famous for being mute. He doesn't talk at all. He communicates through hand signals. But he's like a ninja. He's a commando. He's the guy that gets stuff done. He's the guy that does the dirty work. In the original cartoon, he was just a guy that didn't really talk much. They didn't really go into his backstory. In the comic, he was a soldier who got injured, and then that's why he's mute, and then he became a ninja afterwards. In the cartoon, he didn't really have a rivalry with Storm Shadow. Like, that wasn't really a thing. Storm Shadow was more fighting Spirit or Quick Kick. But over the years, they've sort of refined his backstory. In the movie, the live-action movie, which is not bad in terms of Snake Eyes, he was an adopted member of the Arashikage clan. Storm Shadow was the nephew of the master of the Arashikage clan, and they sort of trained up together, sort of as brothers. And then Snake Eyes was framed for killing Hardmaster, but in reality it was Storm Shadow, but maybe it was Zartan. It's this whole thing, but suffice to say, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes have sort of been pushed together because they're both ninjas from supposedly the same ninja clan. And that's pretty much all you need to know, other than, again, Snake Eyes doesn't really talk. So what do I feel about this figure? Is this Snake Eyes? Well, yeah. I mean, who is Snake Eyes? Snake Eyes is Snake Eyes. It's kind of a weird name for Joe to have. It's snake themed, which is more of a Cobra thing, and he doesn't really ever have eyes. In fact, he's pretty famous for having masks. So it's weird, but does he look like Snake Eyes? And the answer is sure. There have been a ton of Snake Eyes, from the very first one in 1982 all the way up to more recent releases from the movies. There have been a lot of different Snake Eyes. The original Snake Eyes isn't even the iconic Snake Eyes. The iconic Snake Eyes is actually version 2. That's the one that came with Timber. That's the one that has like this mask and the sword and the Uzi and the backpack. He does have some iconic Snake Eyes imagery here. The helmet, first of all, has that sort of night visor. It looks like he got it off a suit of armor, which coincidentally there was a comic in the early thousands with G.I. Joe versus Transformers that took place in World War II. And the artwork was really weird because everything was super dark, but in that, Snake Eyes literally found a suit of armor and took the helmet off of it and wore that. If you look from the waist down, you're like, that could be pretty much anybody. From the waist up, yeah, that's Snake Eyes, and that's fine. That's good enough, to be honest. I mean, growing up, I didn't even have the Snake Eyes. I had the one with the knives sculpted on his chest, which wasn't the Snake Eyes I wanted. Obviously, it wasn't the one my friends had, but it's the one I had, so it's just kind of the sentimental one for me. But if I were going to get a Snake Eyes, I would want him to look as much like the original cartoon and that version 2 toy that I remembered. And this one does a decent enough job to get there while being sort of updated and modernized. There's a lot more detail on here than they could ever get in a 3 3/4 inch figure. There's not a lot of paint on it. The paint that we have on there is the silver on the mask. There's some brown on the chest where he has his sort of like support chest posture thing. I don't know what this is, but it's like he's wearing like a leather harness that doesn't seem to do anything other than support his chest. On there though, we do have a nice little red Arashikage symbol as well. He's got this really cool bandolier, which is something that's usually sculpted onto the 3 3/4 inch Joes. Here it's a separate piece that has a sculpted pouch and some grenades on it. He's got some other sculpted bits that aren't really attached to him. He's got armbands with tons of pouches on it, enough pouches to make Rob Liefeld jealous. He's got a belt, which is around his waist, but not really attached to his waist. On there is another Arashikage symbol, just in case you weren't really sure where he came from. He also has these really cool holsters on his leg, and they stay in place really, really well. And there is some paint on all of those. There's some silver on the buckles, there's some red on the Arashikage symbol. So it's not like he doesn't have any paint on him. His pants are painted. In fact, the pants kind of remind me of a carbonized Black Series figure. And then his boots have like this shiny, sort of lustrous black to them. And that's also on his shoulders and on his forearms. So there is paint there, but also not. I would say he looks good. He looks like Snake Eyes. There's a lot of detail there. But let's talk about what he comes with, because that's another thing with this line. There's a new line. Black Series has been all over the place. Some figures come with a lot, some don't. Marvel Legends, sometimes they come with a lot. Sometimes you'll just get the figure and a Build-A-Figure piece. Sometimes you'll get a figure with 5 different alternate hands and an alternate face and some weapons. So let's take a look at those real quick because there's a lot to unpack here. Number one, he has his base gear like he has his backpack. The backpack can peg right into his back, or if you want to, you can thread the hole through the hole on his bandolier. The problem with doing that is it doesn't make the bandolier sit on his chest properly. The backpack's got a lot of great sculpting. Again, it's got that silver paint for the buckles and things like that. The backpack also has a hole on the side of it where you can put the sheath for the sword. Now the sheath for the sword has some paint on it. It's got another Arashikage symbol. It's got brown for the leather bits. You can put the sword sheath on the backpack just like the original figure had, where that's where he stored the sword when he wasn't using it. But you can also, if you want to, put the sword sheath directly on Snake Eyes' back if you just want him to sort of have the sword on his back. So you can forego the backpack completely. The sword itself, again, just like the rest of the accessories, other than the backpack and the sword sheath, has no paint on it, but there's a lot of molded detail, and it's molded in a sort of matte black plastic. The sword fits well in his hand. It looks great. In fact, it fits in either hand or both hands. He also has a fun little combat knife that fits in the sheath on his left-hand side or in either hand. He has his Uzi, which is another staple of Snake Eyes figures. I feel like more Snake Eyes figures have come with Uzis than almost anything else. It fits well in his hand, but there's no place to store it. So he's either holding it or you've got it sitting on your shelf or desk somewhere. He also has a handgun, which fits well in the sheath on his hip, and it also fits well in his hand. On top of that sheath is a silencer. Now that silencer can fit in the sheath if you're not using it. It can also fit on the end of either of his guns, which is pretty nice. And then lastly, it comes with 2 alternate hands. Now the hands that are attached to the figure in the package are just sort of grabby hands with trigger fingers molded in. Now alternatively, he has sort of a karate chop hand, and underneath that we have some claws, looks like for climbing or slashing or something. But the other hand is actually one of my favorite hands. In that hand is a sculpted ninja star. So that ninja star is painted silver. It's pretty nice because, again, Snake Eyes is as much a ninja as he is a commando. And it's nice to have a ninja star that you don't have to worry about losing. So we get a lot of different accessories, a lot of different display options, and I really, really like that. But there are a couple things that I do wish he came with. Number one, obviously, Timber would be nice. Now, only a few Snake Eyes have ever come with Timber. Timber was Snake Eyes' boon companion, much like some other Joes had companions. Shipwreck had Polly, Junkyard had Mutt. There's Law and Order, there's Spirit and Freedom. There's been a long history of Animal Joe combos. So it would have been nice to have a 6-inch scaled Timber to go with this, but I get it, that would have been pretty big in the packaging, and he already comes with a lot. But I feel like I would have rather had a Timber than a weaponry arsenal that this one came with. But like I said, it's also not a deal breaker because a lot of Snake Eyes didn't come with a Timber figure. I also would have liked some sort of flight stand. Now, I did buy the Marvel Legends Black Widow that just came out, and that comes with a flight stand, and you better believe that I basically bought that to display the Snake Eyes. And it looks awesome. 100% worth the $30 I spent on that, but I would have liked it had this come with one. But one of the reasons he looks so good on that flight stand is because of articulation. His articulation is fantastic. He sort of treads the line between Black Series, Marvel Legends, and mostly akin to Power Rangers Lightning Collection. The Power Rangers Lightning Collection probably has the most consistent articulation of any of Hasbro's lines, but Marvel Legends and to an extent Power Rangers Lightning Collection don't have a lot of sculpt to their figures, whereas the Black Series does. So this is more akin to Black Series in terms of sculpt, but without sacrificing a lot of the articulation, which is a great line to toe. Let's take a look at that articulation real quick here. His head has a joint here and here. It moves all the way around. It has a little bit of a waggle. Moves forward that far, back that far. His arm moves out that far. It has a butterfly hinge that moves back and forth, moves all the way around. He has an upper bicep swivel, a double jointed arm, swivel at the wrist, as well as a hinge. He has a crunch at the torso. It moves this far forward, this far back. He also has a swivel at the waist. It spins all the way around. It moves this far forward and this far back. His hips have a couple different ways to move. They move this far forward, and if you pull it down, you can get a lot better range of movement. Check out that badonk. He has an upper thigh swivel, a double jointed knee, a mid calf swivel, a hinge at the ankle, as well as a rocker. With this being Snake Eyes' widest stance, with both his feet flat on the ground. So as you can see, we have a lot going on there. Some things I love are the butterfly shoulder joints, the double hinged neck. I love the extra articulation we have in the torso area. And I love the most the fact that he has holsters, but neither of the holsters hinder his articulation, which is something that's so common with Star Wars The Black Series. Some things to look out for though, when I got this out of the box, a couple of my joints were frozen or very, very stiff, and rather than risk breaking it, I did hit it with some heat from a hair dryer for a little bit just to kind of loosen the joints up, mostly actually in his butterfly joints. And they still don't move as much as I would like, but they move enough to get him into some cool two-handed sword poses, and that's enough. That's all you really need. So as it comes down to it, is this worth it? Was this figure worth the $40 I paid to get him into my hands right now? And I have to say, yes. He's not exactly what I wanted. He doesn't have the exact things that I wanted, but he was easily available or attainable as long as you were paying attention. Pretty much everyone that I know that wanted one got one. In fact, he was available at 5 per person, so you could have bought 5 of them if you wanted to. I only bought the one because I only need the one, but I feel like he wasn't really hard to get a hold of despite being exclusive to Hasbro's webpage. When they announced this line, it was rumored that Snake Eyes was going to be in the first wave. I knew in my head that Snake Eyes was going to be the one that was going to be hard to get in stores. He was going to be the one that scalped. He was going to be the one that was bought up over all the other figures. So I'm super happy that Hasbro actually put him out like this, because I didn't have to worry about tracking him down, and I honestly couldn't really be that much happier. Like I said, I can nitpick a couple little things here and there, but for the money I paid for it, the figure you get here, the box that he comes with, which is so ridiculous, I'm surprised it didn't come with a briefcase and a handcuff to kind of augment what you already got. I just really can't praise this figure enough. I really hope the rest of the line is like this. I will say, preliminarily, the rest of the figures don't look quite as good as this. None of the rest of the figures that I noticed come with any alternate hands. They have multiple weapons, but not nearly to this level. So it's kind of weird that Hasbro went all out for this figure, and then the rest of the figures feel like sort of an afterthought in terms of what they come with. I'm reserving most of my judgment for when I get them in hand, and I have pre-ordered all of them. So if you want to see me review those as well, let me know down downstairs area. I'm going to give Snake Eyes here the full 5 out of 5. He's 5 snakes out of 5 eyes. This is a figure worth owning on your shelf, even if he's the only one you get. You can just get him and not the rest of the line and be satisfied with just this figure. This is exactly what I wanted in an updated G.I. Joe line. It doesn't not feel like G.I. Joe, and that's the thing that gets me, is as long as it feels like G.I. Joe, I'm okay. And this definitely feels like G.I. Joe. So that's it for my Snake Eyes sort of overview, review type thing. Let me know downstairs area, what are you looking forward to in this line? I would tell you, but I think that's more appropriate for me to do in its own video. But please let me know downstairs area, what figures do you want to see? What Cobras, what Joes, any vehicles? I'd love to read and respond to all of those. If you want to see me do the rest of the figures when they come out, also let me know down there, please. While you're down there, there's a couple different ways you can help out the channel if you want to. My Patreon link down there if you're in a position where you can support me on Patreon. If not, totally get it. But there's also a couple different ways down there that are free, up to and including liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the bell. All that stuff goes a long way to helping the channel out. And with that, that's all I've got. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for getting this far. And I'll see you later. Bye.